Hello everyone, my name is Aaron Friedman. I'm 16 years old in the 10th grade, and I'm from Solon, Ohio, a suburb of Cleveland. I was diagnosed with alopecia when I was 13 years old, and it was at an already difficult time in my life, just as I was becoming a teenager. I wasn't really scared when I was first diagnosed in October of 2010. I thought alopecia sounded cool. I knew a young first grader who went to a camp that I worked at. He had alopecia and always had a positive attitude about everything. I thought of him whenever I thought of alopecia and knew not to be afraid. I was cool and confident about my alopecia, and even if I had half a head of hair, I knew not to be afraid and would still show it off with pride around my middle school. The one thing I did have trouble with, however, was that I always felt alone. Only 2% of people out there have alopecia, but at that moment, other than myself, only 1 out of the thousands of people that I knew had alopecia. That was what scared me the most. In the whole world that existed to me, I only had one other person like me. Only one person who could sympathize with what I was going through. Later that year, however, that number tripled, from just 1 person to 3. A close family friend was diagnosed a few months after myself, and I also met a coach in my younger brother's basketball league who also had alopecia. While it was great that I finally had multiple people who understood my feelings, I still felt empty inside knowing that out of the 7 billion people on this earth, only 3 existed to me who I could vent to about my struggles and they would know what I was feeling. After a few months of unsuccessful treatment by my dad's client and dermatologist, I was referred to a specialist on alopecia. She started me on some chemical called DPCP. While it was supposed to make my hair grow back, for the first year or so, it seemed to do a better job at smelling bad and making my head burn than growing hair. I began to grow frustrated. In March of 2011, I faced another turning point in my life. My mother made the executive decision to send me to a shrink, confusing me immensely. Why would I, a kid who could cope with his problems and roll with the punches, need to go to a doctor and talk about his feelings? Throughout my experiences with alopecia, one thing has been nearly constant until earlier this year. Every Thursday at about 5 p.m., I'd be forced out of the house and have to talk about my feelings to some guy in a rolly chair who happened to have a diploma hanging from his wall. That same month, I made a very fascinating discovery. A website called Alopecia World, a place made specifically for alopecians just like me. I now had a seemingly unlimited amount of people around the country and even around the world who were experiencing what I was and could provide me advice and tips on how to get through things. While this sounds like it would have changed my life, I'll be honest, it didn't. Sure, I had people like me who I could ask advice from, but we were on opposite sides of computer screens and would never meet face to face. There seemed to be more ads for hair loss treatments and wigs rather than actual postings, and that really turned me off. I wouldn't have any lasting impact from the site, and because of this, I stopped visiting soon after I started. That summer, my life was forever changed. From some random website, my mom discovered this camp for bald kids called Alopecia Palooza through some organization called CAP. We didn't know anything about it other than the dates, location, and how much it cost. To a 13-year-old me, it seemed pretty sketchy. I didn't have any reason not to go, however, so my mom, dad, and I set off for Camp Campbellgard in southern Ohio for Alopecia Palooza 2011. I went into Alopecia Palooza scared and unsure what to expect. Were there really hundreds of other kids out there with alopecia just like me, and were they really all gathering all in one spot? Over the weekend, I came out of my shell and met some of the most inspirational people I've ever met to date. I got to meet some very close friends with alopecia, and they really understood what I was going through and didn't try shoving a wig on my head or shoving a hair loss treatment down my throat. They could really sympathize with what I was going through. That weekend was probably one of the best weekends of my whole life. Through my whole experience with CAP, there has always been one constant thing. Every CAP kid at every CAP event goes free, regardless of location or activity. Without the support and generosity of people like you, none of this would be possible. Because of this, I thank you all from the bottom of my heart. CAP has made an immeasurable impact on my life and the lives of countless others, and this wouldn't be possible without any of you guys. I can't thank you enough for your generosity and support, and hope you enjoy the rest of your evening.